Welcome, Sae, to Organon Conversation, and thank you for coming. I suggest you introduce yourself for beginning.
Okay, so my name is Sae Lee. I'm from Japan. I am pianist. I work at the Academy of Music in Ljubljana, University of Ljubljana. From this year on, I also teach piano. I just actually got the position we had the audition in September, so I'm very happy that I started to teach also piano at Academy. Otherwise, I'm playing in different formations, chamber music, contemporary music, solo with orchestra, like I'm doing everything.
Would you say one of those is the main one at the moment?
Well, I had actually much more chamber activities on these few years, and also started quite some contemporary projects, I would say. Yes.
What was your entrance point into music, if you remember, and what
So,
kept you inside then?
actually, I don't remember first lesson, of course, because in Japan, we quite start learning music very early age. So I think I had my first lesson, I was, I think, 3 years old. So I don't remember the process of learning how to read the scores and things like this. So at my place, my mother had one old upright piano. And so when I was like 2 years old, she was putting me in front of piano, and I was just randomly pressing the keys, and it looked that I had fun. So my parents decided to put me to the lesson. They are not musicians, so they don't know anything about it. So I just started to go to the piano lessons. That was more like playing. It's not like practicing or anything. It was more like the experience, let's say. And then little by little, I started to play more difficult repertoire, let's say. And then also my teacher put me to some competition for kids. And this was how it started, I would say. And then with time, I started to get some prizes in the competition. So I was going more into the music to spend more time on it. And then I think my key point that I actually decided to be a pianist was also the competition, but that was like national competition in Japan for all the kids. And then it was for the high school student category. I was first grade of high school, and then I won the first prize among high school students. So I was 16 years old, and that kind of decided that I continue really seriously to learn piano and to be musician.
Do you still remember the repertoire you performed at
Yes, I
those
remember, of
competitions?
course. So it was in 2 rounds. And then first round was, okay, I don't remember exactly which prelude and fugue it was by Bach. So one of prelude and fugue from first book, I think. And then etude was Chopin Etude, Opus 10, number 8.
Okay.
And then also I played the Schubert Sonata, I think Opus 120. And then for second round was Chopin Ballade number 1.
Mm. When you look back now, what do you remember what those pieces gave you?
Well, it was highly challenging, of course. But actually, for example, Chopin Ballade, I still keep playing it. And each time I still discover something new or some new aspect. So I grew up with this piece, and that is one of my favorite piece, I would say. Yes.
What is one of your main interests right now inside music performance?
So actually, I have really different projects, and I'm interested, as I already told you, I do everything, and I'm interested in everything. So it's like I'm changing project by project my interest. So now I'm focusing on the learning viola sonatas, which I'm going to play with my alone violist in 2 weeks, I think, on 21st of October. Then I'm going to play so the piece by Groborkar, trio for saxophone, piano, percussion. Next to it also Rebic trio for piano trio with violin and cello, and Uroš Lojko trio, violoncello, piano, and then so on. So it's just I'm focusing on each project, and then it's just keep coming. So it goes like this, my musical life.
How do you prepare when you get the repertoire, when you know the repertoire that you're going to perform, what is the first thing you do?
So for the classical, let's say classical pieces with normal notation, romantic music or impressionistic music, I take the score and I go from the first moment like I would perform on the stage. So I don't read it and learn it, but I put myself to already be like performing it. So I need to have really high concentration to do that, but it's also with time-wise, it saves my time a lot with that. And for actually contemporary music preparation, I use more time to prepare the score because there are so many extended techniques for some pieces. I need lots of gadgets to use. So firstly, I have to correct all the gadgets. Sometimes I have to buy it in Bauhaus and things like this. I have already quite some of them, so it's interesting to see. And then I also check the score, and there are lots of different things I have to. So sometimes I have to take one gadget on the right hand, and then I do something with the left hand on the string, and it's really mixed in this way. So I color everything in different color. So I just visually can immediately see that I don't need to read the text, that I know what I have to do. And then I just go through the scores with this process, and that I know what I have to do. Then I practice with the instrument. So sometimes actually it takes more time to prepare it than that I practice, which is interesting for me too.
Yeah. And I see this is the case with a lot of compositions written for piano nowadays.
True.
I'm interested if you see there is actually still a lot of potential and undiscovered territory for piano that is unprepared, and what would be some exemplary pieces of that. So
the pieces which that I don't need to
use extended techniques and extra preparations, for example.
There are so many undiscovered pieces existed, but not only modern piece actually. And I have one concert series in Japan each summer that I'm playing the pieces actually was never performed in Japan, let's say, or it was really forgotten. Or it's newly written, but with the normal notation. So this year I played composed by Canadian pianist Marc-André Amelin. He wrote Suite for piano. He wrote it in completely normal notation, but it's extremely interesting to play. It's in the old style he wrote it, so it has the dance names, but it's the sound is quite modern, so it's really mixture of the old style on the sound of, let's say, nowadays.
Yeah. How do you, I want to touch upon how do you reach, for example, the depth of a piece, or what is your way of transferring the composer's message?
Yes, so firstly, it's almost everything are written in the score, I would say. And it's not only about the note and the not notated things like articulation or dynamics or tempos. It's always emotion behind those texts. And I'm trying to feel it in a way, like how they were mentally writing that piece, let's say. So I usually try to see what kind of status they were when they wrote that piece, composers. And I try to imagine, because I cannot know, but imagine and try to understand why they wrote that way and what they wanted to express themselves with it. So it's not only about playing the correct note on correct timing, but there are much deeper thought in the score.
How do you, what is your routine? Do you operate with routine, daily one when practicing, or routine, with every session or for every performance that you have, or does that one vary from session to session?
Actually, I don't think I have any routine. It's more about that I feel how I process. I never thought about making a routine, so it's just go with the flow, let's say. Yes, and for the performance also, I'm fine with anything. I just try to be calm and highly concentrated, but that's actually it. So I don't get bothered with any other things. Yes.
What is the most important to you when you are actually there on stage performing?
So there are a few things I would say. The most important for me is actually to listen what I am doing, because we are often occupied with the acting of playing itself, and we can just get overwhelmed with it. So we hear it, but we don't listen to it enough. So that is the one thing. In the group, in the chamber music, or in the ensemble, or in the solo, it's same to me. This listening is like the most essential thing that I think I'm trying to do it. And then second thing is that I try to free myself. So I don't repeat what I practice or what I did it in the studio, let's say practicing, but I try to create so that it goes really like spontaneous. And so that when I play solo, it's easy because I'm alone doing it. And I really have fun doing it in chamber music, duo or trio, let's say, that my partner react on that. So we can interact in any way, how we feel, and then we can create the moment. That's really beautiful, I would say.
Yes. Regarding listening, do you have a way of practicing that as well, or is this something that is either on or off? Or do you think there are different stages of listening?
Well, I try to actually listen. I mean, in the practicing process, same way, but somehow when it comes to the stage, there are sometimes some really special moment comes, I would say, which you don't get it in the practicing place. But I think that's maybe connected that because of audience. So you feel their presence. I'm not really thinking about them while playing, performing, but it's also some kind of interaction between, and I feel their energy, and that also makes some moment special, I would say.
Yes. What is your relation towards audience? So what do you want to message to them? What is there the most important to you? And like you mentioned already now, it gives you that it's a back and forth activity,
Yes,
actually.
yes, true. So if they feel something through my performance, that's the goal, I would say. Could be anger, could be happiness, could be sadness, anything that which emotionally it touches them. And also to discover something, anything that like sound or piece, or if it was contemporary, then let's say new thing, let's say.
Mhm. I want to ask you also about the role of theory inside
Okay.
your practice. How do you approach it? Is this, for example, only verbal theoretical work or analysis of scores? Everything that is off instrument, for example.
So I study in Paris, Paris Conservatoire, and
Yes.
there I needed to have 2 years of analysis class, which was very, very practical. French way of analysis is really in the way practic and not philosophical. So they purely divide the score into the system.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really, really useful for me. So we learned about forms, and not only the piano literature, also for the orchestra scores, really different things. And I think that gave me so much to understand the score, how to approach. So as I said, when I get the score for romantic music or classical music, I go directly to play it as performance. But while this process, actually, I'm also having this picture, like scanning the score, let's say, analytically, that while playing, I understand the structures.
This is actually a really impressive skill to have. What would you say are some other, let's say, necessary skills for a performer that a performer needs?
Yeah, so if I go with the pianist, of course, sight leading skill is really, really practical. Not necessarily, but you can save lots of time with that. And I don't know, for the technical aspect, we are often focusing on technical aspect to come over, but I think it would be really great if we could immediately connect this technical aspect to the music itself. So you're watching the technical aspect with the music and you help yourself to make it easier for you. I see lots of students struggles with the technical aspects and they are just focusing on that. And it making them even harder because they're just thinking about it and not focusing on the picture of it. I mean, whole picture of it. So I think that skill could really, really help lots of students to come over.
Yes, I also noticed that if a piece is approached through a technical point of view, it's like a blockage or a barrier to music. Whereas if one looks at it the opposite direction and dives into music first, this is a solution for a lot of technical problems, let's say.
Yeah.
Do you, in your practice, I mean, probably yes, but what is your repertoire of technical exercises, etudes, and how much time do you dedicate to this still per day? Is this a priority to you or not at all?
Actually, so I don't practice my techniques anymore. I do it through the music. So I get the pieces and I'm figuring out through the pieces. So I don't have daily routine practice purely for my technique. Of course, I had it when I was younger. And I struggled also as well a lot of times with my techniques because also I have quite small hand. I can reach ninth really, really like stretching out my fingers. So comparing to who has a little bit bigger hand, I have more difficulties. But then I needed to figure out how to use my hand proper without injuring it and still be able to play difficult pieces. So maybe that also made me think about aspect of, let's say, techniques, and I could analyze, let's say, movement or coordination of my body, that now when it comes such a difficult part, I'm automatically doing it without thinking, actually.
Since you have an instrument that is a bit not like mine, which I can carry around, so the instrument that you cannot carry with you all the time, but do you still have something that you can grasp on at all times? So what are the practices that you do when piano is not available?
Oh, okay. Yes. So I can actually go through the score without instrument to just also be aware of some things. So I can read the score if it's not really super virtuoso, let's say. Before touching to the piano, I can probably learn quite a lot going just through with the score. But again, this demands so much concentration, I would say. So I don't do so much often. And as I told you, for contemporary music, actually, that's my preparation without the instrument.
Yeah.
And I spend more time on that sometimes.
What is the most challenging piece for you at the moment?
At the moment.
Yes, or all time, or both.
Okay, so one of the challenging one was absolutely Messiaen Turangalîla.
Okay.
Yes,
Why?
because it's a really long piece. It has 10 movements, and it's with full orchestra, with so big orchestra. So, and there are lots of solos between, and it's also very difficult to play. One passage I remember, it's the end of the fifth movement, like jumping over the keys, like from up to down in the random way. It actually, there is the system, but he mixed it such a way that it's so uncomfortable. I practice so much that passages, but I think I need even more, like, I don't know, 1 month to just really feel it comfortable to play it, you know? I mean, I did it fine, but just I think I could even shape it up more on that passage. And it's also about this different sound, different movement. So he imitates sometimes this bard song in sixth movement, which is extremely beautiful. But there also it's very difficult ensemble way, because piano part is very much linked to flute and clarinet. And in my score, it's not written their part, of course. So I need to be really aware being together with them, but without written in my score. So that was very challenging. And as I said, it's through orchestra. Sometimes I'm playing together with them. I have to come over the orchestra sound. So it's physically also very, very demanding, I would say. So the concentration wise, also technical wise, and the musical wise, everything was very, very challenging, I would say.
And at the moment of your current...
So current project, I'm just started to read the things for November, and it looks like, as I mentioned, Grobokar piece probably would be challenging because it's not only playing, it's about acting. So you have to scream, you have to sing during the performance, and there are lots of extended technique as well. So when they asked me to do this piece, I was really thinking if I will be appropriate person to do it. But I said to myself, okay, you have to make some challenge. You cannot just stay in your comfort zone. But I said, okay, then I need some really good partner that I can really rely on. So I asked my husband, Michał, saxophonist, and also Simon Klauser, really good friend of mine and good percussionist. So I have really good supporter to do it. And I'm really looking forward, actually, what I will discover also about myself through the piece.
Mhm. What is your notion of virtuosity? So, and mostly virtuosity nowadays, maybe.
Okay, so
Who do you consider is
virtuoso.
virtuoso on the instrument?
So for pianists, there are a few, I would say. Definitely Canadian pianist Marc-André Amelin. He's one of the virtuoso pianists. I heard him a few times in Paris and in Japan. It's just unbelievable how he controls everything. But it's not just about the techniques. It's about our presence, you know. And also other pianists in different way. I just heard last summer in Ljubljana Pletonov playing Rachmaninoff concertos. And, you know, it was so interesting to see him playing the piano in the way that he would just talk to someone, you know, like it was such a normal, random thing for him to play the piano in front of people with orchestra, very demanded program. He wasn't even nervous at all. I mean, it was just like, how? Of course, he has so long career, I understand, but it was very impressive for me too. So that's, I also call in different way virtuoso, I would say. And then last month, also in Ljubljana, Marta Argerich came to play in the festival. I mean, she's amazing. She didn't change since, I don't know. She's same as when she was in 30s, 40s, you know. I heard her in different time, different concertos, and each time she's just perfect as she is.
What do you consider any differences between practicing new music pieces and pieces from the past centuries?
So I try not to make differences when I practice or when I perform it. So my approach shouldn't be different, let's say. But the preparation is, of course, different, like I mentioned to you. And in the way for the contemporary music, new music, let's say all the notation written are more in like absolute way, tempo-wise, dynamically. So when I see tempo marks and dynamic, I try to really be absolute with it. So, of course, there are some different characters in the score, in the piece, and it cannot be same forte in the different characters, but I think it has much more precision in the new music. And in the music written past, I think we have a little bit more flexibility inside. So, especially time-wise. So it's more like the time meters, let's say pulse, are more moving within the music than new music. That when new music has, like, let's say Четвертинка 60, it's 60. There is
Yeah.
no movement inside, because they usually write it inside when they want to move it. But when, let's say, I don't know, Beethoven writes Четвертинка 60, it cannot be 60 exactly like whole entire piece. So I think that's the difference that I think.
Yeah. Mm. Do you dare to imagine how the music in the future is going to be?
It's difficult because it looks like that everything's are already on the table, like all the possibilities. And more it's started to mix the genres, like I don't know. So it's not only about music, but it's more with the whole art together in a way that is mixing in and getting something new out of it.
Do you
So
think this is something that will survive long term, those pieces, or?
I think there are pieces that which survives, of course, but we shouldn't forget that also that nowadays that we know from past, it's survived. There are 100 more pieces exist which we just don't know because it didn't survive. So I personally think some pieces that I performed, which was written recently, it touched me, and I hope that it will be still performed, like, let's say, I don't know, 30 years later, 50 years later.
Yeah. And as I see it, one of the differences, for example, nowadays, it's oftentimes the case that a piece is being performed once and then never again. And I think the repetition of performances in quantity is what also guarantees the long-term survival and development, not only of the piece itself, but of the whole composition field.
True. And also depends on it's written for which instrument, I think. Because for piano or, let's say, violoncello,
yeah,
we have so much repertoire, even we cannot play everything in whole life. But let's say I play a lot with saxophonists. They're taking always new thing. And they're really repeating to perform that if something is written good way. So it's maybe that's also one thing to consider if you're a composer. I don't know if you want to be played your piece. I think there are high possibility if you write to the instrument which doesn't have so huge repertoire, then this piano or violin, I would say.
Yeah. I also always say that there's already enough repertoire for cello solo written, because it's and still every year, I think, if we look at, again, by quantity, how many pieces is composed for cello per year, and for example for solo bassoon per year, it's the difference is quite big.
Yeah. True.
I want to ask you also about your pedagogy, and yeah, what is the most important to you there?
So
what do you strive to
yeah,
bring out
I
from your students?
I'm actually telling to my student that I try to help them to know how to do the thing. So how to play and to understand how to practice or technically or movement or whatever, that they can realize what they want. I'm quite good at figuring out what they're doing wrong movement or the physically or coordination, and to fix. I don't say fix, it's not the good word. I would say help them to come over this, to play in the way that they can realize what they want. So I'm here to teach not really the interpretation, because it's really personal things to me. Of course, if they play classical music in romantic way, that's, I would correct them. I would guide them to the correct direction. But there are so many way exist, and my way is only one way. I mean, my way is like one of the way, you know. So they should really figure it out that by themselves. And I'm just a little bit more experienced than younger pianists, let's say, or musicians. And it doesn't make me better because I'm professor, you know. That's just a name. So my goal is to give them as many as possible tools, the end that they can do it without me. So they can realize what they want without someone telling them how to do it. And then if they know this thing, they can pass to next generation. So I try to work on that way. I don't tell them like, okay, here's written forte, so play forte, because they know it already. It's written, they see it, you know. So if I take, okay, let's say piano, instrument has very specific also techniques, but also the piano, they should know how piano functions, how pedal functions, how the mechanic functions. Because it's very easy to play piano. Everyone can play the piano. Even cat can play the piano, you know?
That's why it's on the airport.
Exactly. But there are so many different ways to produce sound. It's not just you press the key down and that's it. So I try to give that to them, that they start to think about it. And it's also connected all to the sound. So I'm always telling them, like, don't press the pedal because you feel insecure, but go with the ears. So you pedal with the ears, you play the finger with the ears. It's really essential that you use your ears.
When you look at piano as the instrument and also the whole development of the mechanics in history, do you still see there is still a potential in the development where it could go? And it's happening already.
I think the piano which exists now is like the piano. I don't think it's necessary to develop. Of course, there are still research. For example, Barenboim made the piano, which strings is not crossing, so it's just straight, you know?
Yeah.
And he made that piano, he's playing that piano. And probably it should sound a bit different, I guess. Or also I saw like they invented chair. So while you play the piano, chair moves together with you. So it's very easy to shift your, let's say, body according to how your hand goes.
Mhm.
I mean, it's interesting to probably try the things, but I think it's already manageable with what we have now.
Yeah. What is, mhm. Yes, what is the source of your inspiration at the moment? Where do you get it from? Or,
On different daily basis, even from students, always. Even from, let's say, not so well developed student, they could inspire me in the different ways, you know.
Mhm.
It could be positive, it could be negative, but that's really beautiful, I would say. And this, so I moved to Slovenia like this is my 10th year. And since then, I really performed with a lot of different people here in Slovenia, different pieces, different occasion. And each of the performance or each of process or each of lessons with instrumentalist, really I learn a lot from them in every experience. And I will still probably learn a lot in future, I would say. So that is one of my source of inspiration. And other thing, I really like to watch different masterclasses on YouTube. Nowadays, it's so many available, not only for pianists. I really love watching, for example, Joyce Di Donato, the singer. She's teaching in Juilliard or in Royal Opera House. Her teaching is very, very inspired. I mean, it's really, I get inspiration from that. Or anything. It could be horn or flute or violin. I just randomly click, you know, and then I'm just watching it. I just really have fun
Mm.
watching.
Yeah, already just the possibility that that is possible to do
Exactly.
everything one click away, it's
Yes,
quite fascinating.
it changed so much. Of
Mm.
course, COVID time changed us. It gave us so much content available on internet through this COVID time. And when I was when I started to study in France, there was still no YouTube.
Mhm.
It just came like after, I think. And of course, it was just started, so there were no content, you know. But today, it's incredible, like how much you can learn from it if you see the correct video, correct, you know. So sometimes it's even more inspiring than maybe having a lesson with your own professor.
Mhm.
So I really just recommend students not just to stick on the, I don't know, TikTok or anything, but just to try to explore a little bit more and to see what our availability. I mean, what chance we have actually.
Mhm. What was the main difference? For example, the times back in France, how did you get into the archive back then? In libraries and listening to recordings?
Yes,
Mm.
so in this Paris Conservatoire, it's actually very good archive they have
Mm.
there. There are also lots of manuscript available to just check it, and there's so huge collection of CDs and LPs. That was really one of the best thing that I would say. Any scores which you wanted to get were almost always available. Mm, yes, you just need to go there. It's just that's the difference, I would say, because now you can do it at home.
Mhm. Because I see on one hand it's a limited the activity that you think you can find everything on the internet, but actually with my experience, the things or the activities, the memories and experiences that stayed the most with me were still the live interaction, especially when there was something at stake where you needed to take an extra step to get somewhere. For example, when I'm reading at the moment the autobiography, a book by Gregor Piatgorski, cellist.
Yes, I know him.
And this is and I think this was a generational thing then, either by circumstances of war, for example. A lot of people had to move to other city musicians, and they just came straight to professors and to new city without money, without anything, and said, I want to study with you, or came to orchestra, or examples of musicians 14 years old starting to teach actually people older than them. So I think those are activities that rarely anyone does nowadays.
It's very true, yes. So when I needed to contact my professor in Paris before the entry exam, actually there was already email, but you didn't write it to him directly. So I needed to find someone who studies with him. And then he talked to him about me and asked if I can have private lesson. And he said yes, so I could come to France to have private lesson. Yes, it was a little bit more difficult than nowadays, I guess. Yeah.
Since we are approaching the end part of our conversation, I want to ask you, if I may, about some of your plans for the future. Those you can share if you want. So what is some of your goals as a musician, for example?
So this year I have a few concerts already predicted besides my teaching. So if I go in order, I have concert with Maya Lome in 21st of October, and then in November I'm participating to the New Music Forum. I think we are going to play together, right?
Yes.
I think two pieces, trio or quartet, I think. Yes. So random concerts, New Music Forum, and then this one of the them is, as I mentioned, anniversary of 90 years anniversary for Grobokar and Levich, and 70 years of Uroshiloiko. Yes. So that is one of probably main concert to remember, I guess, because it's quite demanding and it's new for me as well. Then I have some concert in Barcelona in December. I go then a few concerts with the violinists in January, February, and March I played the Mozart concerto in Japan. And then in April, I think I have concert with my husband in Ptuj, Mihargina. So on, that you just keep going on, let's say, in the way. And I'm just scores are waiting for me. I mean, let's say, in a way. Yeah. I'm looking to discover the new things and share the good moment with the audience.
Yeah, and long term, for example, do you plan to stay in Slovenia?
Well, that's very...
You let the life and music take you.
Yes, that way, I would say. So actually, I don't have time to think the long my future plan, because it's always about months and 2 months span that's just like coming the new things, and I'm focusing on each project one after another.
Yeah. Thank you, Sae. Is there anything that you would want to add for the end? Any questions, topics?
No, it was just really nice time having this interview, this conversation with you. And through the conversation also, I just notice what I think, because you don't speak it out, you just have it in your mind, which was also discovery for me. And I hope that people will enjoy listening this.
Yes, I'm sure.
Conversation.
Thank you again for coming. It was a pleasure having you.
For me
have
too.
a nice
Thank you
day.
so much for invitation.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.